Chapter 1. The Whispers of the Night Forest. In a small village nestled amidst ancient forests, there exists a legend passed down through generations. The legend speaks of an enchanted forest, where darkness isn't merely the absence of light, but a living entity. The villagers call it the Deep Sleep Forest. Those who dare venture deep into the forest at night often don't return, or if they do, they recount strange dreams, whispers echoing in their minds, and a sleep that stretches into eternity. It is said that within the forest lies an ancient house, standing silently amidst towering trees. This house appears only on nights of the full moon, visible only to those who truly need it. It is the dwelling place of an ancient spirit, a formless entity possessing a wondrous power, the ability to lull wanderers into a deep sleep, gentle as a warm blanket embracing both body and soul. Tonight, a full moon illuminates the entire forest, casting a mysterious and serene atmosphere. In the small village, a 12-year-old boy named Lan lies awake in his bed. His dreams are constantly disturbed by anxiety and echoes from a distant place he cannot identify. Lan has heard the legend of the Deep Sleep Forest from his grandmother, and tonight, he decides to seek it out. As he navigates the forest paths, each step blending with the rhythm of the trees, he senses an unusual presence. The space around him seems to slow down. The chirping of insects fades, replaced by a different sound, like the whisper of wind rustling through leaves. He pauses, listening. It's a soft voice, almost a fleeting thought in his mind. Come here, come here. Lan takes a deep breath, his fear replaced by a strange sensation, as if compelled by something greater than himself. He continues walking, and then through the hazy mist, he sees the ancient house. Its wooden pillars are weathered, its tiled roof covered in moss, but it doesn't feel desolate. Instead, it radiates a gentle warmth, like the embrace of a loving mother. Lan approaches. The door opens strangely, without a sound. He enters, and immediately feels a cool breeze, fragrant with the scent of herbs. Soft light from small candles fills the room, creating an atmosphere both cozy and mystical. In the center of the room, there's a large bed with soft bedding, inviting one to lie down and close their eyes. Lan slowly moves towards the bed. He feels his body light, as if floating in a cool stream. The whispering becomes clearer. Sleep, sleep. He lies down, feeling the soft bed embrace his body. As soon as his head touches the pillow, Lan's eyes naturally close, and a peaceful sleep envelops him. In his dream, he sees himself flying over lush green fields, where the wind blows gently, carrying the scent of wildflowers. He finds himself in another forest, where everything shimmers under the moonlight. There, he encounters strange but not frightening creatures. They dance around him, leading him deeper into the forest. In his dream, Lan feels an unfamiliar peace. No more worries, no more confused thoughts. Everything is gentle, like the night breeze blowing through the tall trees. He hears soft laughter, and then a warm voice echoes from afar. Sleep deeply, sleep forever. And so, Lan continues to sink into a deep sleep, unaware of anything else. That night, the Deep Sleep Forest fulfilled its promise to bring peaceful sleep to those who need it. And the boy Lan found the place he always longed for, where sleep is not just rest, but a merging with nature, with the mysteries and wonders of life. Chapter 2. Encounter with the Shadow Entity. When Lan woke up the next morning, he felt like he had been on a long journey in his dream. But strangely, he wasn't tired at all. Instead, he felt an unusual serenity, as if all the burdens in his heart had been lifted. He recalled every detail of the dream, from the forest shimmering under the moonlight to the warm voice. He knew he had encountered something greater, an entity not of this world. Lan returned to the village, but he didn't tell anyone about his adventure. He kept it as a private secret, a treasure only he knew. He knew the Deep Sleep Forest was still there, waiting for those who truly needed it. And he felt grateful, for he had found a place not everyone could find. In the nights that followed, Lan's sleep became deeper and more peaceful than ever before. He was no longer haunted by nightmares, no longer anxious or afraid of the future. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt like he was returning to the deep sleep forest, where dreams and reality intertwined, where he could drift amidst the endless space, unbound by anything. But then one night, when the full moon reappeared in the sky, Lan sensed something different. He heard whispers in the wind, but this time it wasn't a gentle invitation. It carried a different tone, gloomy and somewhat suspenseful. He felt a change in the air, as if something was approaching. He entered the forest again, but this time, the path seemed darker, and the trees seemed to be bowing down, obscuring the moonlight. Lan ventured deeper into the forest, his heart filled with worry, but also drawn by an irresistible curiosity. He wanted to know what awaited him in the darkness. Finally, he saw the ancient house again, but this time, it no longer radiated the warmth it once had. The light from the candles inside dimmed, and the door creaked open slowly, sending shivers down Lan's spine. He stepped inside, and in the pitch-black darkness, he saw a shadowy figure standing in the middle of the room. It was an entity without a clear form, but he could sense its powerful presence. It wasn't like any creature he had seen in his previous dreams. It wasn't frightening, but it wasn't comforting either. It stood there, silent, as if waiting. "Who are you?" Lan asked, his voice trembling. The entity didn't answer immediately. Instead, it moved slowly, as if gliding through the air. Then a voice echoed, not in words, but as a reverberation in Lan's mind, deep and somber like the sound of an underground river. "I am a part of this forest, of the night, of dreams and nightmares. I have been here since before these ancient trees grew, since before your village existed. I have no name, for nothing can define me." Lan felt a shiver run down his spine, but at the same time there was an urge within him, compelling him to approach the shadow entity. Despite his fear, he felt an invisible connection between himself and this entity of darkness. "So what are you here for?" Lan continued, his heart filled with curiosity. The entity silently moved around Lan, as if observing him from all sides. Then it stopped, emitting a sound like wind blowing through small cracks. "I am here to protect and guide the dreams of those who lose their way. I bring sleep to those who seek peace, but I also bring truth to those who refuse to face themselves. Last night you slept peacefully, but you forgot a part of yourself, the part I am holding." Lan was surprised and worried. "What have I forgotten? What are you holding of mine?" "Memories, fears that you have buried deep within your mind. You think you can escape them, but they are still there, waiting for the chance to return. I can help you face them, so you can find true serenity." Lan felt fear rising in his heart. He knew the shadow entity was right. There were memories he didn't want to recall, pains he had tried to forget, but he also understood that to truly be at peace, he had to confront them. "How will you help me?" Lan asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Sleep," the entity replied, its voice like a gentle but powerful wave of sound. "I will guide you through those memories, through the dark corners of your soul. But remember, this is not an easy journey. You must be ready to face yourself, to face the things you have feared for so long." Lan hesitated for a moment, but then he realized he had no other choice. He had come here, and he had to continue this journey. He slowly lay down on the bed in the middle of the dark room, closed his eyes, and surrendered to the silence. Chapter 3. The Journey into Memories. Lan quickly fell asleep, but this time his sleep was no longer peaceful as before. He found himself standing in a dark, undefined space, surrounded only by shadows and echoing sounds from afar. But amidst the darkness, he felt the presence of the shadow entity, like a silent companion. "This is where you will face what has passed," the entity's voice echoed in his mind. "But remember, this is not reality, only fragments of memories you have hidden. They cannot harm you if you don't let them control you." Lon nodded, unsure if he could overcome what was to come. He stepped forward, and immediately the darkness around him vanished, replaced by a familiar scene. His childhood home, a small house nestled amidst golden rice fields under the bright sun. Lon found himself back in his childhood days, when he was still a little boy, playing with his friends in the village. But that joy quickly disappeared as he remembered what happened afterward. The scenery around him suddenly changed, becoming more somber, and he found himself standing before a dark room. The door to the room slowly opened, and Lan saw himself, a younger version of him, huddled in the corner, tears in his eyes. He remembered that night, when he heard his parents arguing, the sound of furniture being smashed, and the helplessness of a child unable to do anything to change the situation. That was the first time you felt true fear, the entity's voice echoed. The fear of loss, the fear that your world could crumble at any moment. Lon felt tears welling up, even though he had tried to prevent these memories from resurfacing. He wanted to run away, to turn his back on this scene, but he knew he had to face it. He entered the dark room, approaching the younger version of himself. "It's okay," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "It's all in the past. We've overcome it, and we're still alive today." The boy in the memory looked up, his big eyes filled with tears. "But I'm scared," the boy said, his voice seeming to echo from deep within Lan's soul. "I'm scared it will happen again." "I'm scared too," Lan admitted, realizing it was true. "But we can't let that fear control our lives. We've grown up, we're stronger now. Let the past go and keep moving forward." As soon as he finished speaking, the scene around him began to fade, as if a mist was enveloping everything. He felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. He saw his younger self smile before disappearing completely into the fog. Chapter 4, The Return of Light. Lan realized he was standing in the original dark space again, but this time the darkness was no longer as frightening as before. The shadow entity reappeared beside him, but its voice was no longer gloomy, instead becoming gentler. "You did well," it said. "You faced your greatest fear. Now you are ready to return." Lan felt a sense of relief spreading within him. He knew this journey had helped him understand himself better, what he had been through, and what he needed to overcome to find true peace. "What about you?" Lan asked the entity. "Will you stay here?" "I will always be here," the entity replied, its voice becoming more ethereal, as if fading away. "But I will no longer be darkness. You have brought light back to me, and now I will become a part of you, always by your side, helping you find your way in the darkness." Lan sensed a change in the space around him. The darkness gradually dissipated, giving way to a warm and gentle light. He found himself back in the ancient house in the forest, but this time the house was filled with light, and everything radiated a strange peace. He slowly opened his eyes, realizing he was lying on the soft bed in the ancient house. The light from the candles still glowed softly, but now he felt a warmth spreading in his heart, as if he had just experienced a long but meaningful dream. Lan sat up, feeling lighter than ever before. He got out of bed, a sense of serenity and peace washing over him. The light in the room was warm like a mother's embrace, soothing all the worries in his heart. He knew this journey had ended, but its mark would forever remain in his mind. He stepped out of the ancient house, feeling each step on the soft ground. The deep sleep forest was still as quiet as ever, but now he no longer found it scary. He looked up at the sky, seeing the first rays of dawn beginning to shine through the canopy. Lan started walking back on the path leading to the village. With each step he took, he felt like he was shedding the layers of fears and anxieties that had imprisoned him for so long. He realized that the deep sleep forest was not just a mysterious and mystical place, but also a teacher, a friend, who had helped him confront the deepest parts of himself. When Lan emerged from the forest, his familiar village appeared before his eyes. The familiar sight of mossy roofs, Small dirt roads lined with flowers and grass on both sides all became simple and intimate. But the difference was that now everything was clearer, as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. As he stepped into the village, Lon felt a peace he had never experienced before. He saw the villagers starting their new day, laughing and talking happily, working in the morning sunlight. Everything was peaceful, but now there were no more invisible fears in his heart. Lon returned home, entering his small room. He sat down on the old bed, feeling the softness of the blanket and pillow. He closed his eyes, listening to his own breath, feeling his heart like a calm lake. He no longer felt insomnia, no more long nights of tossing and turning with worry. That night, as darkness fell and the moon reappeared in the sky, Lon closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. No more nightmares, no more fears. His sleep was as peaceful as the wind blowing through the trees in the forest, like the gentle flow of a stream in the night. Lon knew he had found what he needed, not from avoidance or fear, but from confrontation and acceptance of what had passed. The deep sleep forest was no longer a scary place, but a symbol of healing and peace in his soul. Those who hear this story, from children to adults, will feel the warmth and peace it brings. Like Lan, they will realize that peaceful sleep comes not only from physical rest, but also from the serenity of the soul. And when they close their eyes, letting the gentle whispers of the night guide them, they will fall into a peaceful sleep, knowing they are ready to face whatever tomorrow brings. The deep sleep forest remains, silently waiting for the continuation of dreams, for hearts in need of healing. And within each of us, there is an ancient house in the forest, where light and darkness intertwine, where we can find peaceful sleep and serenity in our souls.